I would hold off on this one until you have a quorum.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
Communications, none. And we are actually going to move item 7 up to item number 1. It's informational only, presentation by University Avenue Center LLC on the proposed redevelopment of the 2400 block of University Avenue, Festival Foods and Quick Trip.
With that, I just wanted to put this item on the agenda this evening. Many of you may have heard about the proposed redevelopment out on the east side. We've been talking about redevelopment at University Avenue for quite some time through the plan, some catalyst projects, and now we have a project in hand. At the end of last summer, plans became public in terms of a festival and Quick Trip being the two primary tenants driving this redevelopment. With that, because it is a very complex project that involves brownfields, contamination, utility relocation, street vacations, there's a lot going on here. We wanted to provide the Plan Commission an opportunity to hear from the prospective developers and just have them say, here's what they've been working on, here's where they're at with certain stages of development, and just give the commissioners an opportunity to ask questions or express concerns before they would come back to the Planning Commission. Right now, we tentatively have them coming through with the street vacation and initial rezoning, a CSM. We would have that on the next Plan Commission agenda for the 22nd. But again, given kind of the scope and complexity of this project, we just want to provide an opportunity just on an informational basis for this client to come forward and discuss. So with that, I would turn it over to the applicant if they want to spend a few minutes discussing the project and just showing some where we're at, and then give the commissioners a chance to ask questions. And I think there might have been some also interested parties if you wanted to kind of hear them out at this time. Again, there's no action being taken tonight. This is just simply for information for plan commissioners and staff to make good decisions moving forward.
So is it better to hear people out before the presentation or after?
I think just to give the applicant an opportunity to kind of present where things are at. They did have a neighborhood meeting the other week that was well attended, but I think if there's still other concerns that are out there, to bring those forth tonight.
Okay, now I see there are quite a few people here, and some of you have signed in. If anybody would like to speak, please go ahead and sign in right up here at the table. And also, when it's your turn to speak, we'll call you up to the front, and you have one opportunity to speak, and then after that, there will be no other opportunities because we want to make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak who would like to. Thank you.
So, I don't know if you want to make a motion to suspend the rules to open the floor. I think Larry Langer was going to probably lead off. He's the principal of AIG Development, the lead applicant on behalf of this project.
Okay, we'll suspend the rules, and Larry?
My apologies.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Larry Langer. On behalf of the City of Green Bay, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, and AIG Properties, we appreciate the opportunity of finally being able to present information and preliminary plans on everything on what we were proposing to do. Short thumbnail sketch about my company, AIG Properties. We've been developing retail anchored shopping centers since 1985. Most of our centers have been in the state of Wisconsin, but we've also developed in Minnesota, Montana, and California. We've developed approximately 3.4 million square feet of retail in that period of time. Assuming your approval of this development, this would be our 5th Festival Food store. This plan, as Kevin mentioned, is very interesting. It's a challenging plan. We have tried to follow some of the outline that the City of Green Bay, through their University Avenue Corridor Brownfield Plan. Quite a mouthful. But several of the highlights of that plan are elimination of the traffic triangle and elimination of blighted retail and blighted office property. And we do accomplish both of those objectives. In this plan and in this process, over the many months we've been working on this, we haven't been able to get everything that we wanted to get accomplished in the plan. And simultaneously, the city of Green Bay hasn't been able to get everything that it wanted to do. There's been a lot of give and take and everything on both parts. This plan, though, is complicated. As I said, we have to relocate the high tension lines that are out there. We have to relocate electric lines. There's several fiber optic lines we have to relocate. We have to relocate water lines, sewer lines, storm lines, gas lines, roads, traffic signal equipment, and sidewalks. A lot of pieces. When you move one piece here, it affects something elsewhere. Our general contractor on the job is going to be Rodak Construction out of Green Bay, local contractor. Our next two things, Mark Scogan from Festival is going to talk just a couple minutes about Festival, and then we're going to have Tom Verdance, our REI, go through the site plan, and you guys will have an opportunity to go through any questions. We hope that when everybody leaves here this evening, there aren't any unanswered questions. We will try and answer everything to the best that we can. What I would like to do, one other thing, is just get, when we've gone through, it's not binding, but we'd like to get a board consensus on what the board thinks of the project after we've all gone through it and everything. If you feel comfortable doing something like that, we would appreciate that. And thank you. Mark?
All right, thanks everybody. Good evening. My name is Mark Scogan. I'm President and CEO of Festival Foods. I don't have a lot to add other than what will be presented here, but just appreciate the opportunity to hopefully open our fifth area supermarket. I've lived here since 1995. Enjoy the city, understand the city pretty well, and know that this would be quite a catalyst and a help to this street. I've lived on the west side of town, I've lived on the east side of town, and I don't get in that area all that often, but like has been mentioned, there's a lot of things that have to be worked out in this area to kick this off, and we appreciate the opportunity that you're giving us to at least talk about this and hopefully get it to the finish line. And like Larry said, we know we have to give and try and figure out some things together to make this work, and just do appreciate that opportunity. So with that, I'll...
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Tom Renzen with REI. Larry, Phil, and I have worked together since 1999 on a variety of different projects, and I've been doing this for 30 years. And this one probably takes the cake on being one of the most difficult because there's a lot of moving parts. But more difficult means, things are worth the risk is worth the reward. So at the end of the day, to kind of accentuate what Larry was speaking about, there's a lot of moving parts between traffic, utilities, neighborhood, all those kind of things going on. So to get our arms around that, we've done a lot of work in the area. We've done a traffic impact analysis. We looked at traffic for basically 3/4 of a mile around the site, since late summer, both during the summer and during periods when school is in session. We've talked to all the utilities. There's 7 utilities that we're coordinating and keeping the ball in the air with. DOT, up on Highway University Way to the east is Highway 54, Highway 57, that's DOT jurisdiction. DOT also has jurisdiction along Highway 54 for access control. Then to Larry's point, we're trying to kind of collectively put together and make the plan that the city, you folks worked hard on, and try to make it reality. So one of the first things that we did, or one of the things that we did very early on after getting a kind of a plan together, was meeting with the neighborhood. And so we had a neighborhood meeting dating back in August. And one of the things we heard loud and clear from the neighborhood was the traffic. They were very unhappy with traffic. And what happens is there's a couple different things. We've got the Front Street, University Ave, Sturgeon Bay Road intersection that's challenging. University Ave, there's kind of a racetrack through here. You can play your cards right going 50 miles an hour there. I'd be kidding, but it seems sometimes people are trying to do that. And then with the schools and everything down here, Dan's to Baston, to Clement, this way was a shortcut. And so what happened with the park and the neighborhood here, there's cars that would come down at a pretty good clip going through that neighborhood. So we were well aware of the traffic dynamic of this and how important it was to the neighborhood. And so we're trying to figure out, okay, that's something that we have to work with and try to solve as we work through this project and get to the end of the day. But still have something that the neighborhood can be proud of and that works well with the neighborhood. So this plan kind of gives you the big perspective. What we did is we said, okay, how can we still have the neighborhood keep access? How can we reduce the conflict point at Fred and University University Ave, and still have something that works for everybody? And when you're trying to do a redevelopment project, works sometimes it maybe isn't what everybody wants exactly, but it's the best thing that we can do with the scenarios that we have. And so what we looked at doing was, rather than having Fred Street connect to Sturgeon Bay Road, we'd bring Clement Street through. We'd also put these S-curves in so that this still becomes a connection to the neighborhood. Through the course of our traffic study, we've learned, and our traffic engineer is telling us that they anticipate the cut-through traffic to be reduced. If you remember back, the reason to cut through was you come here and you can get out here. You could avoid the stoplight at University and Dan's. Now that link is gone, that connection is gone, and we still have a stoplight here, and this will be a new stoplight on Sturgeon Bay. Those will have a stop sign here. So the desire to cut through the neighborhood it should be greatly reduced. What we've done is we've taken Fred Street, and this now does not connect back out here. So if you live down the neighborhood to get back out, you're going to come up to Baston, around to Dan's, or around to Clement or out to Baston. So big picture, that's what we're happening. We've been meeting with WISDOT on breaking the access control through this area. And I've got another diagram, we'll get further into that in just a minute. So to accomplish this, Pete, what we'd like to do is we'd like to abandon University Ave, or vacate University Ave in this area. Vacating it means that the street is gone off the record. We keep some utilities in place. There's a large bank of AT&T lines that runs along the south side of University Ave. We don't have enough money in this room to move that thing, and AT&T said, don't even ask. You guys can't afford to move that. So that's going to stay in place, as well as some of the other utilities may stay in place. Fred Street, we like to vacate, and we're still working out the dynamics of what Fred Street's going to look like at the end of the day. We've had several different options. Currently there's a call center here. That came into the project as of late, maybe a month and a half ago, and we're working with that piece. And then Clement Street, in this area, this would get vacated. This is the building footprint of Festival Foods, so Clement would be vacated as well. There's utilities within Clement that we're going to reroute, and we'll get into a discussion about how that'll happen shortly. This end of University Avenue will stay a public property or public way. And the reason being is that the bowling alley is right here. So it's important for those folks to keep their identity. So we'll have a maintenance agreement with the city on how that'll be handled. But that way that allows them to keep their address. So this is the DOT right-of-way plan. There's a small piece of property that we'd like to purchase from the DOT that we've approached. And whether we end up buying all or some of that piece to accommodate that road is to be worked out, and we're working on that. The DOT is currently doing appraisals on that small triangle, so that process started a number of months ago, and that's moving along. The other thing that we're doing, we need to break access control where we want to bring Clement out. Access control is where DOT goes out and they actually in this case they own this entire area, and then they sold it to the Canards, but they left access control, meaning you couldn't enter or access Highway 54, 57 there. But so we're asking for 48 feet of access control to be broken, but in exchange we want to give back 252 feet of access control so that we would block all this off. That's why when we picked up the call center and turned that into part of the Quick Trip parcel, that really made sense. Because when we're trying to put the dynamics of all these traffic movements together, that piece was pivotal in closing that access off. We've just, unfortunately, our traffic engineer broke her leg last Friday, and she was going to get the TIA back out. Well, she got it out today. I didn't get a chance to read it all, but that should be in the city's hands, hard copy, either tomorrow or next day. But the digital copies are. And what we did is we've met or exceeded all the DOT standards within Sturgeon Bay Road relative to the turn bays, the deceleration lanes, and the tapers. DOT asks that we at least meet their minimum standard, that they prefer the desired standard, and in almost all cases, we've met the desired standard, except for, I believe, one where we have the minimum standard, but it still meets our standard. City staff hasn't seen this yet. That's coming with the TIA and coming our next submittal later this week, and we're putting more definition to this. The utilities and grading. Back to the utilities. How we're going to do this is the ATC lines run right through here at this time. We worked with ATC to bring the lines around the south side and back. And maybe I'll go back to this drawing, it's a little bit cleaner.
You need to take these out, you're gonna run out of space on these.
Yeah.
You know how sturdy that easel is.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
So ATC goes right through here right now. We're going to bring those lines around this direction, back up and on center. What you're going to see, rather than the big wood poles that are out, the H poles that are out there today, they would be the galvanized poles. And what they're going to do, rather than the lines being across from themselves, the lines will turn and be vertical up and down. So it's going to have less of a presence going through the neighborhood. Working with ATC, we learned that within the next 10 years, they want to redo all the poles through this area. And so the poles that we're putting in today will match what's going to happen in the future. There's a water line that runs down through here. That's has a history of leaking. It's an older line, so we're going to bring that water line around the backside and tap back in and create a loop for the neighborhood. We've got some fiber optic lines that run down through here. They're going to go around the east side of the building and connect. We Energies, or WPS, they've currently got a ton of lines going down through here. Working with those folks to bring them around the outside of the property, as well as AT&T. And then there will be gas lines and some feeds that still go through the property to feed the buildings, but by and large, everything will be underground and disappear. And we're working with those folks on designs as this time goes on. So what's it going to look like? We've had some, most everybody's familiar with Festival Foods looks like. This is a mock-up of the last store that we did. And it's going to be very similar to this. As we get further down the road, we'll have the architect on board to give more presentations of what this new store or new facility is going to look like. The small shops up on the north side of the site, this is a mock-up what that'll look like. We did one of these down in Kenosha in front of Festival Foods. So the architectural features will complement each other and the colors will complement each other. And then Quick Trip looks such as this. Again, a lot of the same color tones, some of the same brick architecture. They'll all tie together very nicely. And then when it comes to the kind of the buffer between the neighborhood and along Van Buren Street. This is what the neighborhood looks at today. This is the backside. It's called the Alvarillo building. There's some truck docks and kind of some unsightly presence. What we want to do is put this fence line up. And this fence line will wrap around the entire south side of the Festival Foods building and the south side of the Quick Trip facility. And then it'll be closer to this image where we'll have plantings on either side of the fence at Quick Trip. This fence is unique in that we watch videos. We haven't used it yet. They've used it down in Milwaukee. You can throw a baseball, hardball against it. It won't tear through it. If somebody wants to spray graffiti on it, you can come out with a pressure washer, take it off. And it also has some sound reduction qualities to it. It's very fibrous, and there's multiple surfaces, so they'll knock that sound down. But again, it'll be enhanced with landscaping on the backside. So the folks, the neighborhood on the backside will see the fence and landscaping, then the top brick of the building itself. The other thing I think is important to talk about is how truck traffic enters the site and where the deliveries will come from. You'll see that the loading docks are north facing on both sides of the store. We've got one here and three on this side. We've got heavy pavement in this area, so what will happen is the trucks will come down University Way, pull up in here and back in and stage, and then leave in that direction. and the truck backs on this side will do the same, come in here, back down, and leave out this way. So no trucks will be entering into the neighborhood out the backside of the facility. So I think, I didn't follow my notes, but I think I've covered pretty much everything that came to mind. With that, I'd love to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Commissioner Bremer.
If I could, just to orient a little better, can you go back, this is the one I wanted. Can you point out what is where as far as the buildings? We know Festival right there. You've talked about the mini mall group on the north side. Is that up there?
That's right
Okay,
there.
and Quick Trip is
Right here.
right there.
This is the C-store, the canopy, and the car wash.
And the car wash. And I heard call center for some reason.
Yeah, the call, and maybe I apologize for
That's what I
getting...
heard too.
Yeah, you're right.
So
you
we're
did.
talking car wash there.
No, the call center, right now there's
Oh.
an office building here that uses a
Okay.
call center, a 24-hour call center. And it's a small office building on the corner of Fred and Sturgeon Bay Road.
Okay.
And so that property is under contract.
That'll be gone. The property itself will be gone.
They'll be
Okay.
relocating.
Okay. So that area will be part of the Quick Trip complex?
Correct.
With the wash over there, the pumps up on the north side, and the convenience store on the south? Is
Correct.
that it? Okay, thank you.
And where will the fence go?
The fence will wrap around, this dashed line is the fence. And then obviously we'll break here for Clement, and then it'll wrap all the way around on this side.
Thank you. The fence looks really nice.
Yeah, you know, I'm kind of excited
Very
actually to go
helpful.
touch it and see it and feel it. And what we want to do on this side is get it up on a berm, because we've got some room to do that. By code, we need 25 feet for the side buffer between residential. We actually have close to 35. It'll give us some room to get it up and bermed up a little bit higher and get some plantings. And then, you know, help elevate the fence from sound and noise pollution.
Great. Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Was there anybody else here from your group to speak? All right, thank you. There are some other people here who would like to speak. Janine Belland?
Yeah, absolutely.
We want them.
The picture?
We want the one with the car wash.
The one with the car wash.
Okay. This is my house here. This is Juanita's house here, okay? This one is right next to what is existing, that communications thing on the corner, the building. So this is the street that we hope stays maintained because the city didn't want to keep this street. They wanted to give it to her and I. So they wouldn't have to have the plows, the garbage all come in there. So as far as I'm concerned, as long as that street stays intact, I'm good. The same with the car wash. But the noise of the car wash, as far as PA system, after 10 o'clock, is that going to be adhered to? And the same with the car wash. You know, I work an 8 to 5 job. So hearing that noise of that double stall car wash all night, and the same with the external PA system for, I don't know, how many pumps are there? 8, 12?
There's 5 islands, and there'd be 20 pumps total.
Woo! Geez.
Excuse me,
Come
ma'am.
back outside, sir.
Ma'am?
Be able to hear that,
Ma'am, I should have said I need you to address the plan commission with any
so this
questions.
is-
So,
So we need to make sure that there's some type of noise ordinance, because this is not that far from our properties at all. I mean, this back part here is where the building is existing now, and that's fairly close. There's only, this across is probably 80 feet, that street, which they wanted to give us, 40 feet, and then 80 feet across our properties. So we need to, I mean, if there's going to be
I'd
an
like to
issue
have questions.
as far as, you know, the noise and the activity there, we want to address that
okay,
as well.
thank you. How high is that fence going to be?
It's, right now it's proposed as an 8-foot fence, and then what we talked about, we could berm up at least 4 feet, so the top of the fence would be 12 feet high from the ground today.
Okay, that's helpful. And can you tell me how high the car wash itself is?
I don't know verbatim, but I'm going to say about 20 feet, 18 feet probably to the
18,
roof
20.
line.
Okay.
And what we had talked about doing with the car wash is potentially extending wing walls out on either end that look like a feature of the building to help, again, shed sound from the neighborhood. And then we also talked about very heavy plantings on both sides, deciduous plantings, to help buffer that sound.
Now, is there some, can you answer the question about how late the car wash will be run?
I can't speak on behalf of Quick Trip, but what I can say is that we'll also do design for Quick Trip, and they're very sensitive to the neighbors. I think one of the neighbors actually works with Quick Trip and is aware that there's sites where they change the hours of the car wash and do the best they can to work with the neighbors.
Is there anybody here from Quick Trip tonight?
I'm right here.
Okay. Well, I mean, representing the company.
Well, I work at Quick Trip and not to represent them.
Thank you.
It's very
Yeah,
awkward.
from our team,
Very awkward. I want to keep my job.
from our team, there's not.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We're good? Okay, and Juanita, would you like to speak?
Yeah, well, I have the same. I am the house that is right next to the car wash. And I have the inside scoop on it because I work at a Quick Trip that has a car wash. We are not in a residential area where I work at the one on GV, so that's out on the highway. The car wash is very noisy. They are trying to put, as they say, a barrier fence. I don't think it's going to keep the noise down. This is a double bank car wash, so that is 2 car washes that will be running. I know how busy the car washes are. In the wintertime, once the weather warms up, there's a line of cars from 7 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night waiting to get into the car wash. 5 to 6 cars constantly going. It's great for our business, but I don't want to live next to a car wash. I won't be able to sit on my deck in the summertime. They're going to build it 50 feet from my house. 50 feet is not very far from a car wash. If you go through a car wash, you know how noisy it is. They have the huge blowers that will blow to dry your car. I don't think the fence is going to buffer all that sound. So I have to disagree with having a car wash right next to my house. Because once they build it and they say it's going to do it and it doesn't do it, I'll never be able to go outside in the summer. I won't be able to handle the noise.
Anyone have questions for Juanita? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Also, Kevin, can you answer that question about the street vacation? Will that street remain, still be taken care of by the city?
So Fred Street, I think, has been an issue that we've discussed back and forth, and I think we're still negotiating to resolve this issue. We have, initial site plans in terms of what's been shown, did not meet our standards in terms of streets. And that is just for our operations, for our plows, for our garbage trucks, did not meet it in terms of the inability to turn those things around. We looked at another approach that, looked at, and I think the ladies mentioned, providing some flag lots with long driveways, and basically having the street curve around through there. While that met city standards, that was not an acceptable solution for the property owners. So that was not pursued. Right now, we're still working to come to a resolution on this issue that works for all of us, and that's going to be something, again, one of the reasons why we wanted to have this informational meeting today in terms of just identifying points in this complexity. This has been one of them, and this is one that we're continuing to work on, and I think we're going to come to a solution that works for all of our parties involved here.
Thank you. Okay.
I don't mean this, but so that means the city doesn't want their trucks to be able to turn around. They need to be able to turn around, is that what you're trying to say? Like the city trucks and stuff?
In terms of our maintenance equipment, dump trucks and plows and things like that, it's not safe for them to back up.
But we have I always want to say, we have a preference that they turn around, but there's other streets in Green Bay where they back down. So it
Can be done
that.
that way.
I want to make some comments when we're done with this, but
Okay.
as Kevin said, we are in the process of working some things out on that issue.
Okay, thank you. Randy DeTompo.
Madam Chair,
I also have a question on
on
Peter
that-
Street.
Oh, sir, 1 second, please.
I just want to,
Alderman.
I want to add that I have streets in
can
District
come on
Number
up.
1 where they're cul-de-sacs, and they actually hire a separate contractor that goes in there with a smaller piece of equipment, and they take care of those types of things. So it's workable.
It's an option.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm just concerned about Peter Street, them using, coming off Baston, because they rock it down that street right now.
And
And the neighborhood's, it's getting a lot of young people with kids. One of them is going to get killed.
was it helpful too that they're changing the configuration to try to slow that traffic down and discourage people
Well, the only way
from taking that route?
In my opinion, the only way that they're going to fix this is make Peters on the Baston end out only. That way they can get their fire trucks or their snow equipment or garbage trucks down the road. But leaving it open on that end is just someone's going to get hurt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joshua Schwalbe.
Hello,
Hello.
thank you for listening. My name's Joshua Schwalbe. I live in 1216 Cherry Street, but my grandparents live on 535 Ruth Street. I'm very familiar with the area because I grew up in their house. So I'm very familiar with the neighborhood, and I was one of those kids that played in the neighborhood, and it made a huge impact on my childhood to be able to play with my friends and have to worry about a minimal amount of traffic. The original plans, and I will say that when they were presented, they did a very good job of listening to all of the neighbors and trying to accommodate for as many of their concerns as possible. So I will give them a thumbs up for listening. I know this is an extremely complex project, and this is one part of it, but they did do a very good job of listening to everyone from my perspective. Some of the issues that they heard from my grandparents is the old construction was going to take a lot of the traffic and route it through the neighborhoods, which would affect the kids that do run around, and that was one of their main concerns. The newer site plan that they have shown on their second showing for the neighborhood, we were accepting of that, thinking that with a new development there is more traffic, but this will help calm a lot of that traffic down. Peter Street will have an increased flow of traffic because I was also a high school at Preble High School, and we use this neighborhood to cut through. So, I mean, I know that there are traffic studies, and I do stand behind the statistic on those, but from a personal standpoint, Peter Street will be the new cut through, and there should be some action taken to slow that traffic down because that is also part of the neighborhood, even though it's on the outskirts of the development. There should be some attention paid to that.
And do you see Peter Street on this drawing?
No,
Sir.
on the
Thank you.
larger map he had. And that's when I was in high school, we'd come down, and it's easy to take a right. You don't have to worry about the stoplights on Dan's Avenue, and then you just find your next access point, which would be Peter Street, and then you shoot on University to go up wherever you need. So there might
Okay,
be some
thank you.
attention. I know that that's on the outskirts of this development, but this development directly affects the whole neighborhood because we're adjusting traffic patterns in that area. I do think that it's an opportunity to fix that bad triangle intersection. You can ask the business owners and the residents there. They've seen some horrific things because we've been trying to fix that intersection for a while, and this is a great opportunity to have a development and as a secondary advantage to adjust that troublesome area. So I like that part of the opportunity to develop that. One of the things that my grandparents had, they wanted to see a little barrier between the north side of Ruth Street where the two streets came close together. They were accommodating and said that they were going to have cable guards, a lot like the fences put on the highways to keep traffic from crossing over into the other lane. We accepted that as a solution so that jumping the curb wasn't a solution to cutting through. So we want to make sure that that's part of the development and it doesn't get lost in the paperwork, but they were very accommodating, and they added that just for the concerns that we had. Also, I believe that the diesel gasoline was not offered at the gas station, and that'll cut back on a lot of the noise. So I know they have trucks entering and leaving, but it was a concern that trucks coming off of the highway would increase the noise level in the neighborhood. So the gas station was contingent upon not offering diesel gasoline, accommodating larger trucks. Now, speaking on my own behalf, I think this is a good opportunity to increase public transportation at the development level. I would like to see bus stops very close to the front doors, possibly heated, because the grocery store is one of the biggest places that people that can't drive or people that walk do go to. So making the amenities for mass transportation more accessible and more comfortable will increase people riding the bus and people walking. I've heard a few of the constituents in that neighborhood say it would be great that we could walk to the end of the block and get groceries. So I don't think that the question was ever posed if a grocery store is accepted or not. I think that the grocery store is widely accepted from what I've heard, but we have to work out all the extra details with traffic. Also, if we can pay special attention to linking that neighborhood to the grocery store, because again, the grocery store is something that you will access a lot more if you can walk to it and more frequently, and have more trips to it, because you can only carry so much. So like my grandmother's a very sweet lady. She's already pretending that she's asking where the door is so that she can walk to get groceries, and I think that's fantastic. But I think a little extra attention spent to making sure there's a linkage of sidewalks, or maybe a little nicer sidewalk linking the neighborhoods to the grocery store would really go a long way in the long term of the development, and the investment in those infrastructure pieces will have a huge payoff for all the things that the neighborhood is going to have to adjust to allow this. So again, we like the development. We think that the accommodations that they made are adequate. I think although the traffic patterns could be discussed a little bit more, and we could strengthen a few things in the neighborhood, it would be a great development. I believe that's everything I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Bremer.
Yes.
So are you thinking particularly as you're talking about the sidewalk access for pedestrians from the neighborhood of that S-curve area on Baston that's up here?
Yes, I mean,
That would almost be like a neighborhood entrance to
I think the previous sign that
that
you
area.
had,
Yeah,
this one,
yeah.
shows it a little bit better. But this whole neighborhood here
Yes.
has access to walk to the grocery store. So having a couple of sidewalks and making sure that they're connected and that they follow all the way through to the entrance in a safe manner, I think that will go a long way. And they have made accommodations. If I can add one more thing, the plans do show a sidewalk coming all the way around here, which is probably required by DOT standards, but from a pedestrian standpoint, it doesn't really make much sense because there's only a highway up here. When you look at origin and destination, the destination is this building right here, and we need access to it, but I don't think that the sidewalk going along the highway makes much sense. So while it's required, I think eliminating that might be acceptable if we can route traffic, because any pedestrians are going to want to go through this area here.
I appreciate also your comments on the triangle and the importance of getting rid of that. I think you attended some of the public sessions on the University Avenue corridor planning too. And I was amazed at the first meeting we had that was the number one issue for the people in the whole area, and you all picked up on that very well. We appreciate it.
And like I said, this is a great opportunity to adjust that, because so much of the development is changing that area, and this is the time to improve it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
Okay. We'll return to regular order of business. Are there questions, comments about the development? Yes,
I'm
Alderman.
going to make a couple of comments on it.
I think my constituents that are here did a wonderful job explaining a lot of the issues and where this thing has come. When we first met in, I don't know, August or early September, the plan was to bring the driveway for the main driveway for the store and to service the store and the Quick Trip, to bring it in like this and down Ruth Street. And that was absolutely unacceptable to the residents who lived back here. They simply didn't want to see traffic going to and from the store, going through what's a quiet residential neighborhood, a very nice residential neighborhood. I think the concerns that have been expressed are pretty much the same things that I've heard. What do you do on the end of Fred Street here? Ruth and Fred will be connected together like this, so you can come around like that and get around. And frankly, I didn't realize until this issue came up, this proposal came up, I didn't realize how much cut-through traffic there is in the neighborhood. And that's one of the things I've heard about the most. And people, to avoid the light at Dan's and University, cut down Baston, go to Clement, and then out in this direction, and go the other way as well. And it's a lot of people going to and from the school. But I think what is proposed here provides an interesting option. And you never quite know when you change the traffic patterns for residents what they're going to do, what their reaction is going to be. But the traffic study has suggested that 30% of the cut-through traffic that's currently going down Clement and out here, that 30% of the cut-through traffic will stay on Clement and go out this way. It's suggested that 40% of the traffic that's currently cut through will get the right idea and take Dan's to University at the light and then go on their way. But it also suggested that 30% of the cut-through traffic right now that's using Clement will go down Peters. And that's what has people concerned.
Sure.
And, there are some options there to control that traffic, and I'm not sure what the answer is, but our staff and the developer are looking at that to try to come up with some solution there. Like I said, you never quite know what it's going to be until you actually make the change. But I think what they've come up with is a pretty decent plan for the people who live in these areas. Peters Street is still a concern.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, Alderman Nguyen.
Yeah, thank you. Alderman Nguyen, District 2. This used to be my area, and I can tell you about the racing through the traffic. We worked long, and you remember I was here when we changed that no left turn on Fred Street and how terrible that triangle was. But I think one of the main things that we could do, and I think they're already talking about, these two houses are so close to the car wash, is to take a hold of those properties, and the city or the AIG properties. And I think that'll really solve a lot of problems, because I think that could go a long way. And I know there's been talks about this, and I think both property owners would oblige to something like that. And that would solve really 90% of what you're talking about. I mean, of the real concerns for the people that are really too close to that. So I think they should really look into that.
Thank you.
Continue to look into that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Just as a final closing thing, would it be possible for the board to take a consensus thing on what you think, what your opinion is of the project so far, and subject to getting a couple of those things resolved, which we're working on right now? Would the commissioners support what we have, and could you kind of give us a voice vote in terms of what your thoughts are, if you feel comfortable doing that?
Well, no, we cannot do a vote at all, but we can discuss it. Would that be correct?
I mean, each commissioner can individually state his or her opinions on this, but
On
in
this.
terms of, yeah.
And, but I would like the mayor to speak first.
You're right, you're not going to make a vote as a group tonight. I mean, you knew that it was put on for informational only, and Larry knows that. Look, this is a complicated project that we've been at. Everyone has said that, and this festival business, we like them very, very much in our community, and we know they're going to serve Brett Smith and Schmidt Park, and you're the planning commission, and this is a big project for us, right? Anything over $10 million is big for the city, and this is well in excess of $10 million. So tonight, we're here just to kind of, when we come back, we just don't want this delay kicked down. And we've been at this, we're under some time constraints with the DOT, and so we're here just to present this. And as commissioners know, and as I know, after 14 years of being the mayor, some of these things just not 100% of the people are happy. And I can't help that. I wish I could make everyone happy all the time, but I think when you look at, and Alderman Nenning talked about that, when this first started, this has had significant changes, and I think Mr. Schwabe addressed that as well. But at the end of the day, you're the ones who are going to vote on it. And we're here. This is really not something we do a whole lot of, come and say this is what's coming, but this is what's coming, and we have a timeline put together. I don't feel like it's being rushed at all. It's just that it's time we start making decisions. And we very much support the project and Festival Foods. We just want to hear if there are some concerns individually. What about this? We need to address that, because this was one of the top 3 priorities in the city to get this thing built this year. And the way we do that, with all the systems we have in place in government, it takes a long time just to get the approval processes done. So we're here early to talk to you and present this. But what you see here is pretty much what has been discussed for some time. As they said, August. I mean, people have known about this project since August. 2 neighborhood meetings. But we can't buy our way into making everybody happy either. Now, there are some things that are still being discussed, but we're here tonight to talk to the Plan Commission, give you a heads up on a significant project for the east side of Green Bay. And if you have any major concerns, we're not being presumptuous that you're going to approve it next time you see it, but we'd like to get to work on it in the next couple of weeks. So again, thanks for your time, and I'm sure, Sid, you've been at a number of the neighborhood meetings, and this feels right. I mean, I think this is a good project for us, but something that we just want to keep it moving. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Wisbisky.
Are we ready? I would just like to make some comments on some of the things I've heard here tonight. I have attended the meetings already, and was there at one on Monday night. And I have to say that I agree with the mayor. This is a big project, dollar-wise. The people who are involved in it, I did do an interview on TV. I said they're great people and nice to work with. I actually repeated myself about 3 times too. The mayor was laughing at me. He must have heard it too. So anyway, you're good people. We really want to accommodate you. We want to make this thing work. I just want to address some of the items that came up today that I think that we should address, and we have to. And then I'm going to summarize this whole thing. Sidewalks in the area along that road actually gives you a gateway to Schmidt Park. And we have been working on sidewalks, believe it or not, that hopefully will tie University of Green Bay to this area sometime. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we're on our way. We've got sidewalks from the old Tillman property all the way down that whole line. That took some doing to do that. Yeah. And you might not see them right now because somebody hasn't been followed, but noticed that the other day. The triangular construction was brought up. That is a big issue. Yours truly, who loves roundabouts, I thought, wow, a triangular roundabout, wouldn't that be neat? And I've had talks with DPW and traffic a little bit, and the issue there is the truck traffic that goes to the meatpacking companies. Mm-hmm. Having them come around the roundabout or anything other than what we have would cause a big problem, but they're still looking at it. And please be aware of all these things I'm saying right now. We're still looking at it, and we're working on it. We would love to have this thing go rushing right on through, but this is not the time to rush. This is the time to do it right. It's a big project. It's got to be done right. Traffic options to be worked out by the proper committees. That's a must also. It has to be looked at by DPW. It has to be looked at traffic, which is a division of DPW. They have been working diligently to get to that point. But I'm getting the impression that in order to make this thing work, everybody's got to work a little bit harder, and they got to get together to push this thing through, not to get a planning commission to agree on this. And thank you very much for making a statement. We do not want to vote on this tonight. We are not in that position to do that. I was very nervous when I saw that, when I heard that, because I know all the background that's involved in this thing, where it really sits, and there's decisions that have to be made. And I see our director of DPW is here tonight. Maybe he'd like to make some comments on this, but I'm hoping he feels the same way, that I think he's working on it as hard as he can. He wants to see it goes. He realizes big bucks make a difference, but it's got to be done right. And I get the impression, wow, when I first saw it, I thought this is the greatest thing I ever saw, but wow, this is like shoehorning a thing into a space. But you know something? I think the space and the place where it's located is fantastic. And I would be all for moving in that direction, but we got to do it right. As far as the quiet goes and the gas stations and the car wash, maybe there's some options that could be made. Maybe we do look at quieting things down, but I'm not one for inventing the wheel. I can't help but think this has been done somewhere else. I would be looking to Quick Trip to assure us that this is not going to be a nightmare. And I would hope, I heard the young lady said that that car wash where she actually worked was noisy from 7 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. Ray of hope. This thing closes at 9 o'clock. I didn't get a chance to ask her that. Ask her that.
Closes at 9.
No, it doesn't. It runs 24 hours.
Oh.
Yeah.
But
The noise
I'm
is
sorry.
only 7 to 9. Okay, pardon me.
No,
I
it runs all the
interrupted.
time, but we're not residential where I work at.
Okay. And along with buses, yes, the buses will come. Build it, and the buses will come. We've done that at Aurora Daycare Hospital. We've done it in several remote areas in the city. Pretty proud for what we've done with our transportation system. We keep on working on it all the time and improving that and extending it. And it's just been a great facet. Overall, make the right decisions. Do not rush for decisions. And these decisions have to be made before we actually proceed. And I guess I would beg the people involved to, and that goes for the owner, goes for the developer, goes for our departments, to put this on the top burner and get together and let's get this thing moving, but let's do it right. Let's not rush through something that's big and great. So at this point in time, I would not make a judgment myself. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want comments from all of us?
Sure.
Okay. So no major concerns here for me. I think one of the things that's really pleasing to hear is how closely the neighborhood has been working with the developer, and it seems like there's really thoughtful design that's going into what the concerns are that the neighborhood has. So that's a really nice thing for us to see, I think. Jerry, I think you summarized all the points that we heard and the way that we're working to address them. So I think that as long as there's open dialogue, this seems overall like a really positive development. And it's just some sort of, it's the ancillary things that we need to work out. And it seems like we'll come to a good resolution with that.
Thank you.
First, I wish to applaud the gentlemen for their presentation. I thought it was a very accurate and very informative presentation. I appreciate that. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I think overall it's a great plan. Obviously, there's some details to be worked out, and there's actually quite a lot of work to do yet. But I'm enthusiastic, actually excited to see this come to fruition. So yeah, I'm all in favor of it. Push forward, keep on going. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Bremer?
For me, the 2 points have been clearly focused on and are the critical ones. And one is safety, the Peter Street issue. And unfortunately, we're going to have cut through regardless of what you do. You can't stop it. It's going to happen. So you want to minimize it as much as you can. So safety with traffic strikes me as one of the critical things. The other one is the general relationship to the neighborhood beyond the safety issue. And I share Heather's point that it's really nice to hear how responsive you all have been to neighborhood concerns. I'm quite convinced that we will find a way to deal with the Fred Street stub. And that's the sort of thing that we have looked at regularly, and that would be a concern to me. It has to do with the neighborliness of this development. But I do think paying attention to the notion of the pedestrian walkways and bus stops, and if there is, as Alderman Duane has suggested, a possibility of some purchase agreement with the current residents right by that car wash, and if that area can be turned into this kind of gateway to the neighborhood, it would be a wonderful welcome. So those are the things that I would be looking at as really critical to a final vote. But I'm generally speaking pleased that this follows the University Avenue Task Force recommendations as well as it does. I think it would take us in the right direction.
Thank you. I would concur with what everyone else has said, and I think this is going to clean up that triangle so well. And yet there are some things that need to be worked out, and again, the biggest ones in my mind are the safety, the shortcuts and things like that, and also the two properties by the car wash. I think that there needs to be some resolution to that. That definitely is a concern. I commend everyone for being involved, the neighbors for getting together and discussing it, and all of you, Festival and Quick Trip and your architect and Larry and everyone for working with the neighborhood as well as you are. It's a testament, says a lot to your business and your style. And thank you all for coming in.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
If I may, I missed 2 points and actually came back up again. The safety and traffic, that can be worked out. We have excellent engineers in that division who are more than capable of coming up with solutions. Those solutions are not going to be made in this group or by these people. And I'm sure they can come up with this, and that's basically their job. Also, the houses, it would be nice if we could remove those houses, clean that up. As a matter of fact, there's kind of a bad house over there, but in the same token, it's very expensive. And to conflict, actually put that on the developer, that might present some problems right there too, because that's quite costly to actually develop that. We talk about making that one street a dead end. We talk about turning left only. That might be an easier way out. But to actually remove these houses, you have to create a large cul-de-sac, and it has to be large enough to really accommodate the city trucks and everybody who uses it. And it's going to be more than just those 2 houses, which really inflicts a pretty good cost on doing this. So we have to give that some thought and consideration also. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in. Do you know about when this might come back, Kevin?
This will be slated to come back February at our next Plan Commission meeting.
Oh. Okay, so in 2 weeks?
In 2 weeks.
Okay.
So is there a place like where we can watch for the meetings? Like, is it posted online or anything?
It is posted on the city website, the Plan Commission agenda meetings, and for this particular issue, because of rezoning, some other things involved, you should get a notification in the mail.
Thank you.
By letter, but please
Okay,
just
because we were never notified about this one.
Sure.
I just have.
This wasn't a public meeting for.
Okay, it wasn't.
No,
Okay.
no notices were sent out for this. Nope.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If I may add one comment on the last comment I heard, if they get this back here in 2 weeks and resolve all these problems, I'll eat my jacket.
I'll bring the salt.
Things take time.
Oh, the door open.
Oh, Paul's getting it.
Paul? Paul, could you remind them also to keep their voices
Go down by the
down?
elevator.
This is part of our Wisconsin open meeting laws.
Okay, we're going to item number 1, old business. Discussion and action on the request for a conditional use permit for a two-family use in a low-density residential zoning district located at 898 Shawano Avenue, submitted by Wolban Zhang, property owner.
That's 896 Christiana Street.
Thank you. So this application is getting heard again. This was tabled at our last meeting on January 25th. This is for a conditional use in an R1 district for a two-family home. So this was converted 20 to 30 years ago, and they're coming on the tail end to get the CUP to have the two-family. The last meeting we spoke to, we had a couple concerns with the neighborhood itself having the two-family use there. So the Planning Commission had requested to get the police call report. So those are in your meeting packets today. Some things that I wanted to discuss further was that, that this is consistent with both our comprehensive plan, our zoning code, and then also with the neighborhood on a whole to have a two-family use in this location. Again, everything in the pink would be the two families that exist in the neighborhood. Anything that is blue is a parking area, and anything yellow is an institutional use. So for instance, one is a fire station, the other one is a church. So those are the surrounding land uses for this property. So if you wanted to take a look at some of the police calls, I just want to make note also that some police calls can also be attached to the address if they're made near that location. So there are two parking lots that are surrounding this, so if somebody were in one of those parking lots, a police call could be attached to that address. So not all of these could be accurate. It's pretty hard to sort through that kind of information, but there is quite a list to go through if you wanted to take a quick minute to review that. We did send this back out for the 200-foot notification area for the neighborhood. We did get one call in opposition from a representative of a neighbor who does not live there. Another call in objection just because it's a troubled neighborhood and they didn't want the higher density use there. We did get one call in support, and then we also got another call who was just kind of getting more information, and their main concern was parking. Something that we looked into is the parking for the area. They do have a single stall that's paved that goes back through here that has the ability to hold two cars. And then another lot that's gravelled currently in the back that's got a garage and that could in theory hold 4 cars. So in addition to also the request from the first time through to have that second exit on the second level apartment, which is how we got involved in this case in the first place, we also want them to pave that back area because that will help with some of the aesthetics and then also some of the minimizing of the calling for the parking complaints that have been lodged at this home. So with that, we are still recommending approval based on the standards of the building code, the second exit, also the parking area. And I just wanted to reiterate that the land use is compatible for this area. We also don't believe that this should be involved with who lives there now, who could live there in the future. Using those kind of determinations could get a little sticky. Also might be a little hard for the property owner who bought the property as a two-family. It might be some undue stress to him. So we think that with the qualifications of coming up to the building code with the additional parking area to be paved, that could minimize some of the complaints on the property. So just keep those things in mind.
Thank you. So we really don't know how many of these actually are attached to the property. And we also don't know the what they really were. I mean, it says disturbances, accident, parking truancy. Some of those are obvious, but disturbances isn't. Sex offenses, what kind? Harassment, 911 assist, lost found, fraud. It's really hard to tell what the police calls mean. Is there some way that we can find that out?
We could, in theory, call the police department to get the written report on every one of these incidences. So I try to do some legwork on that. It's just very time-consuming, to be totally honest. It's a lot of information, and a lot of it was just call, hang up, wasn't looked into. Anything that does have a report number, though, would be something that the police did follow up on. So those would be the more major ones for the property itself, and there are only a few, as you can see.
The ones on the right-hand column.
Yep, on the right-hand column with the report numbers.
That's helpful to note. Thank you. Are there any questions for Stephanie?
Yeah, I was very concerned. I'm glad she went the extra distance here to explain what these instances were, basically because it appears to me like this location is bringing these things on, and I can see where that really happens. I think we held this up just to see this because it was brought up, and now I actually question the worth of it because of the lack of any following information or follow-up or anything of greater detail. And I can see where a lot of these could very easily have been anywhere else or anywhere in that school area or whatever. So hang up, wow, it could be almost anybody. Disturbances, what kind of disturbance? I didn't see anything really glaring in that pack of information. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we will, there's people here who would like to speak. We'll suspend the rules. Sandra DeGroat, would you like to speak?
Yes, I just wanted to ask, tell you that there's 2 parties living in my husband's home on Christiana Street, and it's only supposed to be a one-family party home living in there.
And that is something that you could contact the city inspection about? Would that be correct?
His sister came from Hawaii, and she moved in there with them, and she's not supposed to be in there.
Yeah, in terms of just...
7 months now she's been there.
Oh, doctor.
Okay, thank you. Kevin is our director. He'll come and talk with you. Thank you. William Peters?
Hello, William Peters, 233 North Ashland Avenue. I'm the one who made the initial communication to Alderman Mark Stoyer about my concern. I just wanted to come in and clarify. It's nothing personal. These are just questions that come into my mind when I learn that there is a property owner that wants to switch their property from single-family use R1 to R2. And it's not necessarily having to do with who's living there, how many police calls, but how well does the landowner take care of the property? How many properties does this landowner own and use for business, so to say, renting out? And how well maintained are those properties? How many calls on inspections have there been? Police calls? It's a bigger picture than just the one house, because a lot of responsibility isn't just the people who live there, but it's also the property owner and the city. What really strikes me more than anything is just the fact that this is being addressed 20 years later.
Yeah.
And Mr. Zobin, I don't know him personally, but just from what I do know, that he's owned the property for 6 years. Part of owning a property, the inspection will only tell you so much when you have a homeowner's inspection, but ultimately it comes down to buyer beware. Which I feel that if you own a number of properties, which I don't know if Mr. Zobin does, I'd be curious to know how many properties Mr. Zobin owns in the area and rents out. I'd expect that you should be up to pace with as far as building code and what you're building, the quality, what it needs to have, and especially an exit. It's a fire trap, and imagine a liability for him as well if something were to happen. Also, it's this is a problem area. Not a problem, but in a sense that there are a number of negligent property owners, and I'm not accusing Mr. Zobin of being a negligent property owner. It's just the reality of that neighborhood, both the Fort Howard and the Seymour Park, I believe it's Seymour Park, or if no, Fisk, I believe, neighborhood association. When you're buying a property and you're going to use it for a multifamily, you're not just investing in 4 walls in a piece of land. You're investing in a neighborhood. You're investing in a community that you are both intentionally and unintentionally shaping, whether it be in a positive manner or in a negative manner. And ultimately, my main concern are the residents of these homes and of this home in particular, because I believe no matter if you can afford an apartment that is $200 a month, or you're receiving rental assistance, or, you know, you have the luxury of affording an apartment or a flat that's over $1,000, you should have the right to a safe, healthy environment. So that's, I guess, my biggest concern in coming up and asking these questions as a homeowner, as a property owner in the neighborhood, because it does, you know, these decisions affect not just Mr. Zobin, but myself and the entire community, because, you know, it takes one house, one neighborhood to really have an impact on the rest of the block and ultimately the city. You know, I'm kind of looking at the big picture of it. So again, I just wanted to reiterate that, you know, it's, and nothing personal, these are just questions like, wow, why is this all of a sudden now? And what are we doing to be proactive about this? Because like Alderman Stoyer mentioned in the past that, I mean, this part of town needs a shift, it needs a paradigm shift. And I have no problem with rental units as long as they are well maintained and are healthy environments for the occupants. But I mean, these issues, like, I mean, this is just slop, you know, and I just want to make sure that we're making sure that mistakes like this or incidents like this are not happening, or at least minimized to the extent that they have been.
And just to clarify, this already is a two-family and has been used as a two-family. It's not a single-family being converted. But the question about it was the fire escape that it needed, or the fire exit that it needs. So, and you said you had some questions about it?
Why, how does this happen? Why now?
Like how did,
Like
why
how,
now?
like, does, you know, because I mean, imagine, and I'm sorry for my naivety and you know, ignorance in this, because I'm not.
And that's one of the things that, Stephanie, could you please talk about the history of this house and why originally it was, what happened originally and why now it's changed? Thank you.
So right now, we're very aware that when properties are single family, they get converted. A lot of people are much more aware of the fact that you're going to need a permit to do so. There may be different codes to go up to. But 20 to 30 years ago, there was a mass of this happening in the city where they would take a single family home, hack it in half, put people in it, and that was it. So there wasn't really a large permitting process. A lot of other communities have something that where they would have a rental process to go through, where they have yearly inspections, so people are much more able to keep up with that sort of thing. And it isn't something that we have now in Green Bay, and I don't think that there's a lot of public, you know, there's not a lot of acceptance to have that sort of a process in Green Bay.
But that is being done in other communities.
Smaller communities usually, yes. So larger cities usually don't have that kind of a process where they have the conversion. You just do those things, go up to code as needed for whatever you're building. But so this property, there are a lot of other properties like this when they were converted so long ago that unless there was a complaint lodged recently, we would have no idea.
And I understand that. I understand a lot of this, when it comes down to it, you're not going to know until somebody notices it and makes a complaint. I absolutely understand. I just want to make sure that we're being as proactive as possible and limiting, I guess, the capability for someone to take advantage of that. Because, I mean, I live directly behind me. I mean, I know there are a number of responsible property owners, and I can see what that does and what it has done to a neighborhood. And I know it doesn't switch overnight, but it is something we need to be, I believe, more proactive about and aware and creative, especially creative in thinking about how we want to go forward in changing the paradigm and the ultimate, I guess, perception of this neighborhood in that part of town.
And one of the things that the city's been doing is looking at properties that have been vacant for a year or more. And if they are multifamily, they can no longer be used as multifamily.
If they're in the R1 zoning district. Yeah. So if it was a single family home and it becomes unoccupied, you only get a year to reoccupy before it becomes a non-conforming property.
And ultimately, I mean, as long as Mr. Zobin complies, you know, with the, you know, the code and brings everything up to code, and I don't have a problem, because as mentioned, I believe at the last meeting, the residents living there have been there for quite a while, and they sound like they're okay residents. So I'm just more or less, it just really concerned me, just the fact that we're first addressing this now and not.
Well, and we appreciate you exercising your responsibility as a citizen to bring that concern forward.
Sure.
And that is exactly how the complaint process works.
Right. Sure.
And I would note for you that that second level apartment exit is exactly one of the things that is being required of Mr. John.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Alderman.
Sir? just kind of bringing you up to speed a little bit more, that is based on approving the request by our committee, basically, or planning commission, is bring it up to code and compliant with the code. So this is an activity that takes place once these things are really pointed out or located. Now, I guess that's what's happening. I guarantee you, this place will be right there. It's above the target right now. It's going to have to be brought up completely to compliance with the city codes and regulations. Can we go around the whole city and do them all at the same time?
No, I can't. I understand that.
The other thing, and I appreciate your caring, and it's your type of people that makes these neighborhoods basically turn around.
Sure.
And sometimes they're really in bad need to turn around. Which brings me up to one of my favorite subjects, neighborhood associations. Do you have a neighborhood association over there?
Yes, I am the president of the Fort Howard Neighborhood Association.
Oh, you are?
I am.
I was going to tell you to get involved with it, but it sounds like you are. Well, thank you very much. And you might just make your neighborhood association, maybe that would become one of your projects, and maybe become more vigilant and bring us more of these as you see them. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, certainly not.
Something that I have a hard time dealing with, I've basically been an alderman now for 10 years, and I really find it hard to believe that we have codes and ordinances that aren't really enforced unless they're complained about.
Right.
It just rocks my mind to hear that. And consequently, I guess I would ask you to do your work and bring forth more if you have more.
And then just one more, I guess, question. When I did kind of slightly ask a question earlier, what is, when someone comes to the table, let's say I want to buy a property and get it zoned multifamily, and I own a number of other properties, is that something that you take in consideration automatically, or is that something that you wait for someone to bring up?
What you'd have to basically do is put in to change that use, basically, and that would come before this body, and then it goes to the city council for final approval.
And then you review all the other properties that I would own to make. Okay, that's all I was just curious about.
But I will tell you one thing that's customary for this planning commission and the city to maintain single property, single family properties in the city. Because we have a lot of them, very same reasons you said. All of a sudden you got 2 people, you got 3 people living there. Yeah, so that kind of drives the wagon on that one. But thank you for serving on the neighborhood association.
And I think Kevin can address that as well.
Just in terms of
Thank you.
where, I guess maybe 2 things. One, for a rezoning, we had staff would look at it from a pure land use perspective, because you may own it now, but you're not necessarily going to be owning it in a few years from now. So in terms of just like the land use decision, how does that fit? I think there are some cases though with CUPs that go with a particular individual where we more, scrutinize that individual, and that CUP goes with that person. That's where you, kind of look at, a little bit more of record and things like that. But in terms of the rezoning, we're looking at it regardless of the individual, because people come and people go, but from a land use perspective, does that land use make sense for that parcel?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Wovan Chang, which I know I'm saying your name wrong again, I apologize.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you. I'm here just want to say this, this second time, and I bought it as a 2-family. Maybe he misunderstood, and I want to convert to 2-family. Actually, it was a 2-family there, and so I came here just want to get approved for use as That's what I want to say. Of course, compliance with the code. That's definitely right. So that's one I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. We return to regular order of business.
Motion approved.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second to approve. Is there any other discussion?
And it's just so it's clear, that's the motion, including the subject conditions that are listed. Correct.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
This will go to City Council next.
On Monday.
On Monday. City Council on Monday. All right. Item number 2. Discussion and action on the request to authorize a conditional use permit to operate a minor auto repair in a general industrial district located at 712 North Quincy Street, submitted by Josh Peterson, TJT Associates LLC, property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request for a conditional use permit in the general industrial district for a minor auto repair at 712 North Quincy, and that property is highlighted in red on the screen. This is the East River coming through University Avenue, Quincy and Harvey Street, and this is the Green Bay Transit Center right here. This is the subject area right in the middle of the block. Some of the surrounding uses are kind of heavier. There's some industrial uses to the west and to the south, and a little bit to the north as well. This is an existing building and existing site.
There's a bar right down there too. That's easy.
On the corner.
Yeah, and this is a piece the city just recently picked up. Redevelopment Authority
Okay,
acquired.
so it's
Cool. All right.
Potential expansion of the transit center. The city's comprehensive plan recommends general industrial in this area. The proposed land use does not conflict with the land use recommendation. This is the current zoning map of the area. Again, the general industrial zoning. You see the PI zoning just to the east of the property. This is a copy of the site plan we just received. The applicant just had provided it, and that's before you. You really didn't have a chance to study it very well, but that is the site plan as it appears. Again, it's an existing site. This used to be the primary tenant in the building. However, there is a storage use that's currently in there right now, but this will be the primary tenant. You can kind of see the overhead doors, the kind of look and feel of the existing structure from the images that are provided. There is a basic operating plan that's included within your agenda, just briefly describing the use and what's being proposed. Staff did notify affected property owners. We did not receive any calls or questions on this, and our recommendation tonight is approval of the request. We've got 4 conditions. They may look kind of familiar. They have to do with the general compliance with the CUP, the site plan review. Item B has to do with vehicle parts and tires. We want to make sure those are always enclosed within the building, not sitting out. Compliance with the submitted operating plan, and no expansion without the Plan Commission review and approval. The applicant is here tonight if you have any questions.
Yes, Commissioner Brimmer.
One question for you, Paul. I am presuming, since you're bringing this forward and the city has just purchased that corner lot, that the Transit Authority doesn't see any interference with their ability to use the space.
To use the
Any interference with this use of the space, any way in which that would interfere with their ability to use what is now an expanded space?
I'm not aware of any conflict.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there other, yes,
We've been here before, folks. If you just go to the north of there a little bit, there was a gentleman came before this group a year and a half ago, and he's got a thriving business going down there just to the north, just before you get to the bridge, and kind of feeds right into that same type of use in that area. So it looks like he's got a good act going here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we don't have anyone signed up to speak on this. Is the petitioner here?
He is, yes. Josh?
And Josh, would you like to say anything?
No, just if you would have any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Motion approved.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you for coming in. Again, this will go to City Council on Monday. Okay, item number 3, discussion and action on the request to rezone 1857 Shawano Avenue from general commercial to highway commercial, submitted by Bradford Fry Quick Trip. That's it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request for rezoning of 1857 Shawano, and that's on the far west side of town. This is Shawano Avenue, kind of running east and west here, Taylor Street, and this is the boundary with Howard. This is the subject area right here, highlighted in red. It's about a 3/4 acre parcel. You kind of see the single-family homes to the south. To the north is part of the St. Mary's Hospital campus. They've got a remote parking area. And of course, Howard Fleet Farm is up in this area. This is the site of the existing Quick Trip gas station convenience store. They have acquired or are in the process of acquiring this property here. They need this for an expansion of their existing facilities. City's comprehensive plan calls for commercial, so this rezoning from C1 to C2 is certainly consistent with the commercial designation. This is an example or shows the existing zoning. Yellow is low density residential. You can see the existing Quick Trip is a C2, which is the permitted district for that. And actually there's a PUD for the hospital that's just kind of northeast of that property. We are approving the request. I did provide you with a letter that I just received, I believe, late on Friday from an adjoining property owner who had some objections. I'm not quite sure how to react to that. I believe he's here tonight, but there is a response from Quick Trip regarding that. Typically, we don't add conditions to rezonings. Typically, they're from one district to another, and we don't have any conditions that would apply. So I believe that person's here. He could maybe speak to some of those issues, but we're recommending approval of the request.
Thank you. Are there questions for Paul? Thank you, Paul. Okay, we'll suspend the rules and Corey Family Investments.
Dennis Corey. We, as Paul noted, we're the two homes directly east of the red line, 1835, 1837 shop. As these two ladies indicated to the committee, they're very concerned about the potential car wash. And that's was my main email to Paul.
Excuse me, would you point them out for us?
I can show you that they're right here, these two lots here.
Oh, okay.
So we indicated to Paul that we would have no objection providing that, and as these ladies again indicated, that the entrance be on the east side so the cars come in and go out towards Quick Trip. And then also, instead of them coming easterly, the lights and the garage and the noise, they would enter from the east side and go up towards Quick Trip. As far as the noise, I don't know if it's a car wash, but it depends on where you're at. So I would hope that, I don't know if this can review for okaying. Does it come before you for car washes and lighting and that kind of stuff?
No,
not necessarily, no.
Just be staff level review. So by going to C2, you're going to be taking up all the uses that could occur in that district. Quick Trip indicated to me that they're not going to put a car wash on this site. I suppose they still could in the future, but they have to meet basic zoning standards. They've talked about additional parking on the site and possible expansion of their existing store and pumps. Now, it could change over time. Again, the zoning would permit a variety of uses, including the car wash.
Alderman?
In answer to his concerns, basically, we have no plan. We have no idea, interest, exits, all that stuff.
We do not have.
It's a little bit premature, really, and really addressing those items. Or can we just put that on file and handle the requests or whatever these ladies have?
Well, those are kind of two different situations. With the one on Festival site, I mean, that may involve a PUD where we've got an ability to work on the transitional area. This is a straight rezoning from one district, C1 to C2.
That's all we're doing right now.
So we have to rely on the current standards within the zoning code to accomplish those buffers.
And not really to this gentleman's point, then, is what I'm saying.
Right, it's not. It's rather clear cut.
It could be anything going in there.
It could be anything, right?
Back to your 100-story hotel, right?
Well, not quite 100.
I may have not heard correctly. So if they look for approval for a car wash, does it get a public input or not, right?
It wouldn't come here, would it?
No,
It would just...
staff level decision or review and approval that we would make.
Well, the other point I made to Paul is there's also a billboard on that property. And I don't know if any of you have a street light on your front yard, but I have a street light. They're maybe this size. And you have to shut all your front shades at night because it looks so intense. And there's also an indication they may want to redo the billboard there with a structure that would house an LED lighting system. And that's a lot brighter than a street lamp.
Now, the billboard would be under the jurisdiction of the billboard company or the city? Does the city...
We have zoning regulations for billboards.
So you could possibly do something about the lighting on the billboard?
We could possibly, depending what if it's going to be, video image or something, yeah, we have the ability to regulate those.
That comes back here too, doesn't it?
No, that's all, again, built into the code, and we review the plans for compliance.
But Mr. Corey could contact you
Sure.
and discuss it with you.
We're not trying to hide anything, it's just that we have staff for efficiency purposes.
Well, LED, you aren't going to be able to, it's either that or it's not. You aren't going to say turn the lights down LED because that's what it's there for. You know, so I thought it'd be a little proactive, but yes, let's continue.
That's all right. I just want to follow up the line of questioning that you've opened up, and we do appreciate you doing so. Then our decision is simply whether to make the change from general commercial to highway commercial. And if it's highway commercial, then whatever Quick Trip puts in there has to fit the regulations for highway commercial. But they do have a right to put anything in there that does fit those regulations, right?
Correct.
And that's why it's a staff decision. Our decision is whether to make the move. So I want to ask Paul, if I could, what would be allowable for Quick Trip to do under the current zoning of general commercial?
I suppose they could add additional parking, they could have dumpsters, they could put another building on the site.
A retail building of some
Sure,
sort?
yeah, any of those uses that would be permitted in the C1 district, sure.
And no more bumps.
But they could not expand the gas station itself, right?
Or a car wash.
Or a car wash, or those auto-related type of uses. But certainly
Okay.
parking would be permissible to expand.
So the difference, excuse me, the difference between C1 and C2 is what then specifically?
Would make gas stations, convenience stores permitted by right. So they could expand the gas station, they could add pumps, they could add the car wash.
Yeah.
Gives them the flexibility to do that. I don't know if they will do it, but it's yet to be seen.
They could, yeah.
Well, that,
Which brings us, I think, to the issues you're raising, which have to do with the problems for the residential area around this location for something that is zoned highway commercial.
I thought it'd be like when these people are talking about the development, the
Right.
same thing, he's doing something different. And I'm not objecting to the reclassification, just that point of.
Yes, so I can clarify, when we have commercial districts adjacent to residential types, even mixed use will require some sort of transitional yard. So I don't know the height of the structure if you're going to propose one, but there would be at least a 10 or 15 foot transition between the residential district, which would be the south side, and I suppose the east side as well. There'd have to be some separation in between the uses. Fencing, hedge, berm, so forth. Not as elaborate as Festival's proposing, that's they're doing on their own, but the basic requirements of the code would require some transition.
And the festival proposal with Quick Trip is part of a planned unit development,
Well, yeah.
right?
Built as a whole.
Well, yeah.
Will be.
That's-
And that takes a different kind of tack, because then we do have a lot more control and say over what goes into that planned unit development.
So, just from being in Green Bay, I get the indication that theoretically you don't have to notify the homeowners of this is going on at the time it will be going on, or do you usually send things out?
Only in the zoning change would we notice property owners, that's what we did. In this case, and that's what that boundary represents, right? But beyond that, we wouldn't notice property owners or tenants, for that fact, about any further development. No. But you could contact me and I can give you an update on where it sits.
Okay. So otherwise,
He'll do it too, believe me. He'll do it too, believe me.
Now, the two houses that are there, do you live in one of those, or are they rentals, or?
They're rentals.
How are they're rentals?
we're trying to sell them, and we don't want.
You want to make sure that you can.
Like I said, you heard her. I mean, right now she can do all she wants. She could sell it today because she's also gonna have the workers. So that's my concern, is to be able to check when it does come up, because it will come up. It's not. I mean, Quitch is a great company. Everybody knows they get Heron Store Sales Festival. The thing, once they're built, there's no complaints about them. You don't hear anything. You guys can attest that. There's nothing. It's just the fact that you want to, like she said, once it's built, good luck.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to stay off. So.
Alderman Wisbisky?
Dennis, I got some advice for you. Contact Quick Trip and tell them you'd love to sell those two properties. You might be just a little bit surprised.
Yeah.
if that's what you're, that's what you're doing, basically. Wouldn't hurt.
Well,
And other than that, Paul, we'll keep you, he'll keep you informed as to what.
he's got my email address, I think, so. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
May I ask a question? I didn't sign up for a sheet. I have a question for Paul.
Sir, you can ask a question after this next person. Okay. Josh Peterson? Is Josh here?
He was
the other
the
one.
last applicant.
Oh, see? I am reading the wrong slip, so come on up and state your name and your address, please.
My name is Chester Wojcik. I live at 1848 Christiana. 1848 Christiana is this pie-shaped lot right here. My wife and I live here. Quick Trip here, Quick Trip here, buying it. What I have for Paul is, have you seen anything from Quick Trip on their plans on that property?
No.
Okay, that's all I need.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Love your suspenders.
Thank you.
And we will return to regular order of business.
Motion approved.
I've got some problems with this. When I went past it this afternoon, I was impressed by the quality of the fencing that Quick Trip uses between its current corner lot there and the neighbor lots nearby. And that gave me feeling that, yeah, this could work out all right. Now I'm thinking about the noise, and particularly about how many lots are potentially impacted by whatever might go in there as a highway commercial. Just look at the shape of that little red lot, that big red lot. It borders, in some way, shape, or form, 6 or 7 different properties. And I'm a lot more comfortable with general commercial properties bordering residential than I am with highway commercial. The current Quick Trip, because it's on the corner, really only has direct impact on one property, and that's the one right next door. So I'm feeling a little bit nervous about this. And I guess I don't think I can support your motion, Jerry, for that reason.
Yes?
I'd like to address that point well taken. I just wonder if we should probably notify those people who hold this.
Notify?
Do you know if they've been?
Yeah, that very large group has all been noticed.
Have all those people been notified? Should be.
No, that's what
Any calls.
that's what that dotted line indicates.
That's the
correct?
200
Yes.
foot radius.
Right, and we do have that expanded radius now, and I appreciate that. That's coming into
So we've
action
done our
now.
homework.
I do understand that, but it's our responsibility, not theirs, to make the decision.
Yes,
So,
Vice Chair.
if I'm reading you correctly, what you're saying is keep it a C1 in that section. That would still enable them to
Expand their
expand
parking.
the grocery store aspect, the retail aspect. It would enable them to expand their parking if they wished. But it would still contain the pumps to that first piece of
That's
property.
right.
And they actually could still expand those to that lot line if they wished.
Yes.
But it would limit them on that, and it would limit the gas station, which could possibly be intrusive to the neighborhood.
The possible wash, yeah.
If I could just
That's
clarify,
right.
the convenience store and the pumps need the C2 zoning. So it's really limited to
And they
parking
have it
right now.
already, right?
Pardon?
They have it already. The C2 zoning for the pumps and the convenience
Yes.
store, correct, yeah.
But to expand, they would need C2 in the other
Right.
parts.
For
of the
them to
property.
expand the store itself, they would need C2 zoning.
I see.
Convenience store requires
Ah.
the C2 zoning, as well as pumps, as well as car wash.
Okay, that puts it
So
in.
they couldn't really do anything but parking.
Right. Or another retail building.
Now, can we ask them to come back with what they plan on putting there?
Well, we can always ask. It doesn't hurt to ask. I've worked with Quick Trip quite a bit in the past. I find them to be a pretty honest group of individuals. They say they're going to be expanding the convenience store. I would believe them, but again, I can't guarantee they wouldn't put up a car wash.
Right.
And just, I think that's one of the, it's a, zoning's an up-down, and to tie it to something else, I mean, I think Paul's right in terms of, I think we work with a lot of reputable clients, but should something change, I wouldn't want to mislead anyone and say this is going to happen, but once it's rezoned, that necessarily might not be happening.
It's difficult to speak to the noise. I think even in the case of Festival on the east side, for them to mitigate the noise is a real challenge, even what they're proposing. I think you can make it look aesthetically pleasing, but noise is just a whole other
That's just the nature of the
can of
beast.
worms. And not to minimize the effect here, I think we do everything we could to minimize it, but with any use, you're going to have some of those commercial noises that are coming off that property.
Precisely, and that's why I'm questioning whether or not we want to expand the use here of a property that touches on so many residential properties to the highway commercial.
And what I'm saying, and I understand what you're saying, Commissioner Burma, I agree, and yet I can see that there's a lot of property here that they've purchased. I can see that there can be a buffer between what they do put there and the neighborhoods behind, and the neighbors that they're touching for the most part are backyards, other than the two houses to the east of them.
Yes.
Yeah, you have a lot of space there.
So I'm leaning toward not really having a problem with them doing this because of that, but.
And I do know that Quick Trip has been a very good actor in our community and would do what they could to minimize any negative impacts. I'm just questioning that particular property. It is backyards, but it is backyards.
Oh, so yeah, I think these three properties are most directly impacted. There's two already that are impacted, I guess. These properties here, hopefully will turn over at some point, will be redeveloped as part of the PUD, which is part of the hospital. So to say that those will be single families for a long time is tough to say potentially, but there are higher and better uses based on the zoning for those properties. So,
Excuse me.
No, sorry. We've returned to regular order of business, so, thank you.
I'm just trying to have you look at the big picture that their land uses could change over time, but yeah, you're right. These will not most likely change. Those will remain single family for maybe indefinitely. I don't know.
Yes, Alderman.
Yeah, I just got a question. You might know. Are those mostly rentals around that shit? Because
No, those
I don't know.
I know
Except for the two on Shawano, I don't know that they're rentals or not.
the reason I'm asking, because I think the only way it would really affect it, and I really like Quick Trip. I mean, there's some in my district and around, they're all over. I understand that. I have no problems with them. But if they did decide to put up a car wash in that there, the one on the PDQ on Main Street, they have rentals right behind them, and they're empty. They don't stay very long because it is very noisy and it's right on their doorstep. I mean, their doors that come in and out. Very hard for them to rent it out, and they've complained quite a few times, even though it's not my district. You know, what can they do? And I said, you built it there. I mean, it's been there for a long time. I don't know what you can do. I'm just saying, I like Quick Trip. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to stop anything from happening here. But that was my concern, if those are rentals, that would be empty forever. If they did put a car wash there. I mean, if it was that loud. I don't know. I'm not trying to stop it.
Thank you. Yes, Alderman Wisbisky.
I believe you started this conversation out with that they have no intentions of putting a car wash.
Right.
Right. That's what they've indicated to me, but I can't say that
Well,
they'll
I'm
turn
sure.
around and change their mind.
Well, I'm sure they're not lying, but yeah, anything can happen. We might all die tomorrow, that's conjecture.
So basically, what they're really looking at is expanding their store.
Yeah,
Their principal use.
that's been there for quite a while too, hasn't it? Yeah, forever.
I guess I'm misled by the staff report, which did mention a
I
future
can't
car wash,
understand
so I
this
assumed that in your conversations with them, that was one of the possibilities.
That was an early indication.
That they identified.
That was an early indication, but today I was able to clarify with them that that was not their intention.
That would be this one, but
Yes,
So-
rather a snippy clarification, but yes.
it's a good term. So we do have a motion.
I'll second it.
We've got a motion and a second to approve. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Thank you. So this, again, will come to City Council on Monday?
Yep.
So it'll go to City Council Monday. Thank you.
First reading. Right, just first reading on Monday?
Yes. Report to council, first reading.
Okay, item number 4, discussion and action on the request to authorize a conditional use permit for a single-family dwelling in an office residential district located at 327 South Quincy Street.
Okay, so we have an office residential zoning here on South Quincy Street. It was a vacant lot. The petitioner is looking to do some infill housing at this location. The aerial. So the comprehensive plan does call for low, medium residential. So this is in support of that. As you can see, we have kind of a divide on the east side of this property, residential, single-family residential to the east of it, and a large portion of this OR residential zoning to the north and west. That area is made up of basically single-family homes. Even though we have OR zoning, it is mainly a single-family residential area. We have the site plan of the property, so it's a 2-story, approximate 1,500 square foot home that's being proposed with an additional 528 square foot detached garage. On this home, they also proposing some square footage, I believe, in the basement. We are recommending approval of the request. This home has already begun construction, so we're kind of trying to catch up with it.
Who would the petitioner be?
Petitioner is Integrity Builders. They are the home builder that's working on it, and they are here to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? This, I would note, is a home that's planned to be in the spring showcase. So it should be a very high-quality home. Should be an asset to the neighborhood. You know, it is a single-family neighborhood, adding more single-family owner-occupied structures.
Great, thank you. There's a question from Alderman
No,
DeWitt.
I just want to make a comment on it. I went and saw the property. I know Integrity, they really good, this will really enhance that neighborhood. I know it's not my neighborhood, but I was driving by and I saw it and I was like, man, this would really help this little area right here. So knowing them and knowing what he just said, it's pretty nice. I don't know if anybody would look at it, but it's pretty nice.
Thank you.
I believe there are elevations in your packet as well.
Yeah, there is.
Thank you.
And we do have Integrity Builders here. Are there any questions right now? Okay. Are there any questions for the builder? They didn't fill out a sheet to speak, but would you like to speak?
Just if you guys have any questions. It is, I mean, we are pretty far in the construction phase, and it is sold pretty as well.
Okay.
I mean, if that's,
Thank you.
An accepted offer.
Wonderful, thank you.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Nice to do fire right away.
Yep. Item number 5, discussion and action on the request to authorize a conditional use permit for a single-family dwelling in an office residential district located at 308 South Quincy Street.
Same area. Here's the property we just spoke about. Now we're just on the other side of the street, up the block a little bit. Same thing. They're looking to do another infill house. Integrity Builders once again. So we have coverage and a little different coverage here. This is actually retail office housing district, so single family does still fit within that. Zoning map, as we showed previously, it is the OR zoning for that area. Again, it is infill housing, 2-story home with a detached garage. Again, benefit the neighborhood.
Thank you. Questions? Yes, Commissioner Bremer.
Not for Mark, but since we do have Integrity here, I do have a question, and I guess it applies really to both of these.
Please come up.
Oh, sure, sorry. And my question is this. I guess it really relates to the previous motion, which I did not vote against, but I was surprised that you were underway with the construction.
Right.
And why would an outfit of your reputation not have checked on the zoning and made sure that everything was fine before you got started?
And before you answer that, I have one question. Please state your name and your address. Thank you.
My name is Alicia Zoller. I'm project manager for Integrity Home Builders. I live at 3478 Fairville Way. It was an oversight on our part. We kind of thought all of our ducks were in a row. We thought, since all of the homes in the area were single-family residential, or some of them are multi-families, we just kind of thought it was taken care of. And we kind of worked with the city to acquire the lot, and nothing had come up along the way. So it definitely is an oversight on our part, and we're kind of scrambling as well right now because it is underway. So we're trying to get ahead of it for the next one.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate you taking responsibility for the oversight, and I would also note for us that the kind of situation you're describing, where all the homes around there are single-family, is exactly the kind of situation that we keep coming across with people who are buying places that turn out not to be zoned for what they think they're zoned for. So I thank you very much for your candor on that. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
I move approval.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second for approval. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item number 6, discussion and action on the request to amend the future road pattern for area development plan number 112, generally located along Sitka Road.
Thank you. Here we've got quite a large official map amendment, so just to orientate you a little bit, this is Superior, 43 is right here, Ontario, and this is Sitka. So the current road pattern that we have for our area development plan is just coming off of Easy Street straight through. We do have a portion that's city-owned land that would connect up to Bear Creek right here, come back out onto Sitka, and then also this portion here that takes Gilbert Drive, connects it through to Ontario, and then has a cul-de-sac area that would take it out to Sitka. So there are 2 separate changes that would happen with this. The first one would be south of Sitka. This one would take Gilbert Drive, move it up slightly from the last location, just based on the lot line here, so that would line up. And then also change the orientation of the cul-de-sac, so that way it would go more to this way of the neighborhood. And then also this would be outlotted and landscaped fairly heavily along Sitka Road. So we would lose the connection up to Sitka, which is not as important for the neighborhood as deemed necessary initially, but the Gilbert Drive would still go through. So we do have a condition of approval that would verify that the right-of-way line would meet the property line. So as you can see right here, this lot would have a really odd kind of finger going out to Ontario, which we'd like to avoid. So I think that it is written that the condition would have to pull Gilbert Drive south to this property line, but the petitioner has also stated that they would be interested during the planning process to take this property line and move it north to Gilbert Drive. There is some opposition in this area from the neighbors that are along this area here, and they would like to see this connection not go through to Ontario and only have it go up to the cul-de-sac and do it this way. But we think that just the solution would be to either pull this, bring this up, and still have this connect. You see the connection is a very strong connection for the neighborhood. As you can see on this exhibit here, right now for Superior you'd have to come up here, down here, go through the neighborhood, cut through here, go all the way up, and then connect to Ontario. So we see that Gilbert would be much more of a straight location. It would definitely service this neighborhood once it is developed with the single-family homes. And this actually doesn't have the connection through anymore. This is an old map, and this was amended for a different estate that was platted. So this goes through and has a cul-de-sac end here. So all these houses would be serviced on Ontario, serviced here on Ontario, and then these would have the cul-de-sac area here, and then nothing would be serviced off of Sitka for this amendment. There is one letter of objection in your packet, and I put another one on the table that we received on Friday afternoon. Both of those are the objections that they would not like to see Gilbert Drive going through to Ontario and just cul-de-sac up. Staff does not agree with this recommendation just because we think that the neighborhood connection from Gilbert Drive to Ontario is very important for this neighborhood. It won't have a very high volume of traffic because this is a single family or duplex area, but we still think the connection is necessary for future development and also just connectivity between the neighborhood itself.
Can you show us where 450 Ontario Road is on the map, please?
445.
Well, they have on here.
Oh, that's a different.
So the letter that's in your packet is this home here, and I think 450 is here. Are they here? This is it?
That's 450.
450,
Right.
yeah. So this is 450, and this is the other address that's in the packet. So initially, I mean, the ADP has always shown Gilbert going through, so the connection would have been here instead, because typically we do connections between lot lines, so that way one person isn't directly affected by a roadway going through. So I still believe that bringing Gilbert Drive south would bring this a little bit further south, connect just below their driveway, bring a little bit more to where the initial ADP was proposed. But the developer would like to have this go up. So that would be a point of discussion between Planning Commission. Either way, staff really would like any sort of condition just to make sure the property line meets with the right-of-way line. There isn't any sort of arm that would reach through.
So your recommendation is that that lot line be to the south?
Yes, to
Or,
pull Gilbert Drive
sorry, the
down.
right-of-way for
Yes.
Gilbert Drive, yes.
But if that's advisable between the neighborhood, the developer, and the Plan Commission, as long as the lot line meets up with the right-of-way line, staff will be appeased at that. So that would be the first change with this ADP amendment. The second one is to the north side. So initially, this is just changing. This still comes through on Easy straight up, but it's a little bit lower. This last one used to come up and connect up to here, come over and down. This allows for a cul-de-sac area. So all this will be a single-family development at some point. They wanted some larger scale development here. So to pull into the cul-de-sac will let a lot of large lots to be able to go through here. So it does still have the connection to Easy that we wanted. And there is a pedestrian connection here that we've negotiated with the petitioner as well. So this is a 50-foot wide city-owned property. This will be dedicated to the city. It's 34 feet wide, so we can still have pedestrian access to Bear Creek. So this, we haven't had any neighborhood opposition to it. We've discussed everything we need to with Public Works and the Parks Department concerning that pedestrian access.
Does this change also involve more and smaller lots in the lower section?
Underneath where this would go through?
Yeah. When you move the rectangle down from
sure.
where it was
Yeah.
before, did that also open the space for more and smaller lots in addition to the larger ones at the top?
Sort of. So this
Sort
is
of.
kind of deceiving because you would think that these are just standard size lots. These are almost an acre apiece.
Big.
So these are about between a third of an acre and half an acre. So they're
Okay,
still
so they're
pretty
not
large
that
lots.
small. Yeah,
So
I
this
get
does
it.
make this a little bit smaller between here, but allows for the accessibility to large lots. But they're still very.
Yes.
We will have no problems when we're going through the planning process as far as minimum lot size is concerned. These are definitely large enough lots.
Okay.
So
Well,
just
actually,
make
I
sure
was
the
thinking the
connections-
other way, that it might make for a more mixed
Oh.
community.
No, this will all just be
Yeah.
single-family development as far as we've received so far
Yes.
with the petitioning process.
Thank you.
So with that, we are recommending approval, again with that condition that Gilbert Drive be moved south to connect through with that parcel line. Again, if anything, if you would like to vote differently, just please add a condition that somehow that the right-of-way line matches. That would be our recommendation as staff.
Thank you. We do have someone here who would like to speak. Did you want to speak too? Oh, okay. Chris, are there any questions at this point? All right, we will suspend the rules, and I'll call you up one at a time. George Thompson?
Yeah, that's the map. Yep, George Thompson, I'm at 445 Ontario. That's this house here. And I've got two main objections to this, and the first is that this proposed road comes out, you come down the center of the road right away, it comes out right into the front of our house. So we have headlights coming directly at the front of our house. You know, we've got a bedroom facing forward toward the road. Second objection is that we've already got high volume of traffic on Ontario Road, and a lot of it travels at a pretty good clip. Just for an example, if I'm coming up Ontario from East Mason, I can be going, the speed limit's 25, I might be going 25 or 30, and I've got people that sometimes will pull out and pass me because they're upset that I'm not going fast enough. I don't have a radar gun, but I wouldn't be surprised that there's traffic traveling 45 miles per hour up Ontario.
Probably.
And the speed limit is 25 there. I know it's been kept as kind of a through street. There's no stop signs or anything, but there's nothing to slow it down. Now we're gonna add all this new traffic to that street. Those are my two concerns. In my letter, I made a couple suggestions. And here's what my one suggestion looks like. Ending, come extend Gilbert just to here and then come up to the cul-de-sac.
And block that off.
Block that off. It could be 2 additional lots like I have drawn there, or it could be just open or expand these lots or any number of
I'll
things.
pass this way and back down this way.
Okay.
Thank you.
The concern that we need it coming out to Ontario because they need the traffic to come up Ontario to get in there, I don't agree with. There's Gilbert Court is just half a block over to the west. So Gilbert Court is right here. So all we would be adding is this little bit in the court right here, right parallel to it. And they can get in the same way. They can get out here to Sitka and go this way, or around, or out to Huron, or any number of ways out. I mean, there's not a long contorted path that they'd have to take down through this neighborhood to get out to Mason. So I just appreciate your consideration. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Any questions for me?
Commissioner Brimmer?
Yes, please. You mentioned the bedroom that would face toward the Gilbert connection there to Ontario. Can you show us on your, can we go back to the other larger image? Thank you. What's where on the part of your home that faces Ontario?
There's a bedroom right here.
Okay.
In the front.
And
this is our garage.
Okay.
This is our front entrance, and this is a bedroom right here.
Okay.
So it's it's almost directly in line with, well, it is directly in line with this east traveling traffic lane.
But
And our living room.
if it, well, that was actually part of my question. Where's the living room?
It's a great room, so it comes right in the...
Ma'am, I'm going to ask your husband to ask.
So-
I'm assuming your husband.
Yeah, right by the front entranceway is a window into our great room.
Uh-huh.
So our, the whole living area is right here in the middle. The bedroom is here.
I would be more concerned with the bedroom that fronts there, but it would seem to me that moving that Gilbert a little bit to the south for the traffic that is going in the east direction, I think it's going to miss that part of their house. You don't know, I assume from Stephanie's shoulder shrug there, but I think it will minimize the problem.
By moving that it would pull it down and bring it a little bit further to where the original lineup was, which has always been planned. The original lineup was always to go between those two lots, his lot and the one to the south.
Which really would have been headlights straight at the home. No. Okay, thank you.
Now this rectangle here is a fenced yard, so you'd be impacting that fence, and there's, I don't know if where these oak trees are centered, but these are big oak trees in here. But that's not our house, but that's the other letter that I think you had, 450.
Yes, 450, yep. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, we will return to regular, oh, no, Bob, sorry. Come on forward, state your name and address, please.
Sure. Bob Mock with
Thank you.
Lot 4 Engineering and Surveying, petitioning on behalf of the owner here. First off, we'd be more than happy.
But we need you to talk to us.
Okay.
Please.
On account of the owner, if this didn't go through. If this were just extended up and cul-de-sac, it would be, I think, a win-win. But that connection of Gilbert through to Ontario was a condition, or has always been a condition, placed on us by the Planning Commission. That extension, that condition has always been a requirement of this development. So if you're willing to waive that, we'd be very supportive. It would save a couple hundred feet of road and yield 1 or 2 extra lots. So like I said, that would be a win-win. That being said, probably don't think you're going to do that. So let's talk about the alignment of Gilbert. Originally, in the original alignment, this line here was the south right-of-way. So the center line of that would be at an angle here, still unfortunately pointing right at your house. We've realigned this now to include all of this as a lot, and this one, we agree, there won't be a connection from this lot out to Ontario. This will all be part of Christie's lot here on the corner. So there won't be any connection there. We don't want to bring it to the south here. Either way, the headlights are going to affect that. If we have this alignment, we're still angling at it. The sweep is still going to go by. It's unfortunately kind of the way it is. Now, from our perspective and the developer's perspective, I guess we don't see that as that terribly big of an issue. If you look back to our other plat of the north area, we have the same condition here and here. Not really an issue for us. If you pan out and look at the rest of the neighborhood, you can see the same sort of thing pretty much everywhere throughout. It's unfortunate, but if we want to have those connections, it's generally the way it has to be. Either way, you're going to have the headlights from approaching, sweeping past. I live at the corner of one of those intersections. It's just the way it is, really. But if that intersection of Gilbert and Ontario is skewed much more than what we have it, and if it ends up costing any lots, the reality is that area probably won't be developed. It's kind of a marginal development as is from a developer standpoint, just with the amount of road frontage versus the amount of lots. So I guess that stuff being said, we'll answer any questions. On the north side, like Stephanie mentioned, we're dedicating a 34-foot wide easement through there, which when you combine that with the setbacks matches the 50 feet corridor that's already exists through there for access to the Bear Creek Parkway. So I don't think there are any real questions on that one. So.
Alderman Wisbisky.
Let's see. Go back to that. Why can't you come down here? Make this a regular street and go out this way. Is that impossible?
There's, well, Stephanie might be able to speak to that.
These lots are huge. Take a little bit out of this one, a little bit out of that one. And
there wasn't...
And you pick up another lot here, and this lot here becomes a little bit bigger, or that one becomes a little bit bigger. And
I didn't think there was the onus for planning to have a connection out to Sitka.
It's on the original ADP, it's not necessary. I don't believe that the person backing this development is in favor of this, so I'm not sure that he would be agreeable to it.
Well, it just makes too much sense, I guess, okay.
The original ADP has both connections out to Ontario and to Sitka. I think if we're going to sever one, we certainly need the other, but I think that the east-west connection is much more needed in this neighborhood because Easy Street does do a very good job of going through, and so does the next one, which I'm not sure what the name is, but Robert, those have the nice north-south connections to take away from Ontario a bit, so I think that the east-west is more needed in this area than the north-south.
Can we go back to that slide again? Another question for you. So these people bought this lot. Was this a spec home? I think it was.
I think so, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So it was a spec home, and they bought it as a spec home. this probably goes on all the time, I know what the answer is already. They didn't know that there's a possibility of a road coming through there?
The
And why-
ADP's
and
been
why
in
wouldn't
place
they know?
for,
Huh?
that ADP's been in place for, I think, a decade.
How would they know unless the developer or whoever sold them this house, or the lot, or whatever, informed them that someday there's gonna be a road coming right out from right to their house?
Due diligence by the property owner typically. This was, I have another slide here, that's the Christie Lee Estates that went through. They had to go through an area development plan amendment as well, because that used to come through to connect to Gilbert, which is shown on that first map. They used to come all the way through. So they went through, the developer did at that point, for that area development plan change.
Wasn't this one that changed like?
Can I comment on that?
Didn't this
Sorry, no.
change to this? Wasn't this one going on here, it was coming down here, the cul-de-sac?
This one went through, I think in 2008, where right now it comes through and just cul-de-sacs here,
Right.
but initially it was supposed to go through here. So at that point, the developer would know that this wasn't going to be there, but this still existed.
Okay.
So this has been on the area development plan for, at minimum, a decade. But when this was developed, the developer who developed this portion of the property would have known and would have been able to inform
But
somebody.
they don't bother doing that, right?
Now, Jerry, are you asking that of the person who owns the property? Are you asking them a direct question about the due diligence?
Well, I know what the answer is, nobody told them. They had no idea that that road was gonna be there. The realtor would have sold it, no, not tell them, the developer would not have told them. They sell lots, they sell houses. Am I right? Just nod, you can't talk, you can't talk, you can just nod.
He's asking a question so you can talk.
Gone back to the normal order?
We have, but.
He asked you a question.
He asked you a question so you can answer it.
Okay. When we bought it, the map looked like that, right?
Yeah.
Even it shows the road going right through our house.
Right.
So it's obviously going to change, and not only that side, but the other side. And they told us there was going to be a cul-de-sac across the street similar to the one that's behind us.
So you were misinformed as to the whole development in that area.
Well, it wasn't set, it was going to change.
Yeah, they basically assumed that the road would not go through your house. If it would have gone that way, it could very well have gone through your house. Wow, interesting.
Yeah, I just gotta say, this is my district, and this changes all the time with Smet and everybody. Every time, we just did another one on Sitka, and it changes. We have comprehensive plans all over Green Bay, and they change them all the time. If we look at this map, there's no need, and the gentleman just said, they don't mind that it went up to here and it stopped there. We have throughways all over here. We can get to Sitka, we can get to anywhere. You got Challenger, I mean, not Challenger, but Easy and whatever these, Beth, they all go through. You go talk to these people, they're not asking for any faster lanes. I did have our officers, sheriff officers, because of Green Bay, we didn't have our traffic unit at the time. We clocked them at 65, 75, 55, going down these streets. There's no reason why we can't accommodate people, and especially when you got the builders that said, hey, they'd rather just stop it right here. There's no reason to go through. Comprehensive plans change all the time, and this is going to change. I'm all for the property. I want them to do this, but there really is no need for this spot right here. Changes all the time, all over Green Bay. Jerry will tell you, it happened out in Hiswick. You look at Northwood, they changed it.
Easy Street goes through that? Did you just say?
Well, I don't know, I said whatever street it was, because I don't have them, I can't read it right there.
But I had that area just as.
Right, well, you know, it's
a cute little thing. We couldn't keep the sign on that post because it was called.
That's a unique area, and you don't need to make all these crossroads going through all of that.
Yeah.
You can get anywhere you want within 2 minutes going down these streets.
How about fire and all that?
I would ask that you approve this, but you don't have it go through. I think you stop right at the cul-de-sac or how far you need to go. And you heard the gentleman say you're okay with that. And so is the builder. And to have another access, because 20 years ago or 10 years ago, you wanted to go through when you have all these other streets that go through.
So you're saying from that cul-de-sac, you don't need a through street, they just come right back up?
Right.
Just like I have a Conservancy
Yeah,
and
yeah.
golf and all that, okay.
And people would rather have it that way. It's less traffic for them. They have no problem going
Makes
up
it, makes the
Ontario.
street quieter.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Otherwise, I like the whole thing. It's a very small area. It's one part of the plan that we can just eliminate, and everybody's happy. We don't need all these throughways and make it worse for the people on Challenger, Ontario, Huron Road. I mean, if we could get more officers, or we could have so many tickets written every day, but we don't have enough yet.
Well, speeding is an issue throughout the whole city.
Yes.
Yeah. Not just privy to this area, but.
Thank you, both. Are there any other questions for, yes, Commissioner Brewer?
Yes, that I want to ask our staff. Can you specify more what are the benefits to the neighborhood of having that street run through to Ontario?
Well, cul-de-sacs are a little bit outdated, and Green Bay's a little bit behind the times with this, but they don't really do a lot for neighborhood connectivity or neighborhood enhancement in general, because you put people in one specific area, ask them to go into their cars to move to different areas. So more of a grid pattern facilitates more of a neighborhood association, sort of creating a neighborhood feeling. Also for connectivity as far as streets are concerned. If we were to change this and lose the connectivity, I think that it would be, a negative aspect to the city itself, but also we'd have to verify with the other people who are involved. We have to send this off for review to make sure that fire is okay, that these cul-de-sacs have been long enough. Obviously, they would have to go through the planning process to make sure it's up to code, but there are a lot of other things that play other than just, we don't want traffic going here because we live here. It's just a matter of, do we want 2 cul-de-sacs in a row? That seems a little excessive, especially because this isn't supposed to be a suburban development. It's within the city limits. It doesn't have, there's not necessarily a need to just have the cul-de-sac there. So this is kind of a horse and piece.
And as I recall, and correct me if I'm recalling it wrong, the comprehensive plan says in general we should be moving toward grid. Yes. So it's not just a matter of a change here or a change there, but a general principle that we have run through various changes that we've made along the way.
So it certainly makes it easier now
to emphasize the connectivity.
Vehicular traffic, pedestrians, bikes, having more of the grid access makes it a lot easier to implement further plans to make sure those connectivity points are there as well. So right now they're not really looking at that because this is all basically single-family, two-family residential, but there's a park nearby. There's a lot of access points. Bear Creek, they eventually want to pull a trail to go through there. So the grid pattern would lead very easily into having more pedestrian, bicycle treatments as well.
Thank you.
If I can make one other point too, when you look at the street network here, Sitka is a collector street. East Mason's a major arterial street. Ontario is also a collector street.
Yes.
So it collects all the local traffic. These are local streets. It funnels to Ontario to go north or south. So I believe the road is built and designed as a collector street. It's intended to carry that type of traffic. This is not intended to be a main thoroughfare if it's put in. It's a local street. So the idea is to have these connections, revisit the grid, and again, it was designed and built as a collector street.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Bob?
Just kind of throwing an idea out here. If we went back to just a single cul-de-sac idea, would it be more appealing to planning if we then made pedestrian connection possibly out to Sitka?
Through the cul-de-sac out to Sitka?
Out the cul-de-sac, because we're talking about sidewalk on the south side of the road there anyway.
I believe the planning process, you would have to sidewalk everything, but to add the pedestrian connection would certainly be beneficial to the neighborhood.
Plus.
But I'm not sure that
Would
is
suffice.
better than having the grid connection.
What about going into, go back to the smaller one? Yeah, that one. Now, this might show your whole plan, but what about moving this, closing that off and moving it here?
There's houses that are already, sorry.
Yeah, 1, 2, and 3 are lots
These are all
of houses.
These are all houses, okay. Well, that won't work, obviously.
Right.
Good idea, though.
When we did Christie Lee on this side and then submitted this. This ADP is just really changing the alignment of this. We had shown that general concept, it's just an alignment issue now. But
Alderman DeWayne.
Yeah, I just want to mention, Stephanie mentioned that they don't like to have multiple cul-de-sacs. We have that all over Green Bay.
Yeah.
You go down Amberley Trail or Alpha Alpine, I have 4 in a row, and they work fine. You go back behind me on, up off a hillside, I got 3 or 4 of them in a row, and they work perfect. They tried to make Harvest, I live right there, and I'm thinking of my own name, Harvest Street to go through to Edgewood, and it didn't need to be, and they didn't do it, so they did make a change for that, and it's everybody loves it. To say that they have to have this through really is not true. It doesn't even, it makes sense to them, but it doesn't make sense for that area. You got Bob here that says they'll gladly do it without that. They don't need that there. And you have all these throughways, and you're going to have all those access roads to Sitka and the throughway with the sidewalks and that. So really, when it comes down to is you look at what the residents that are there and what it's going to do to them, their livelihood, and to say that they should have known that Gilbert, if you go look at that area and think everything that Gilbert Drive's going through, you would have never thought that. Anybody. The way it's set up. It's really a unique area the way it's designed. Jerry will tell you, he's at it. Go walk it once. It's crazier.
Walked it many times.
I mean, they don't, I don't think there's a rhyme or reason how a lot of that stuff was built back there, but it really doesn't need that throughway right there.
Thank you.
I gotta say
Alderman
the same
Wisniewski.
thing. I've got one area of my district now, that district used to be mine, I said the biggest heartache we had is people kept stealing the sign from Easy Street, couldn't keep the sign on the pole. But I've got areas up Bayview, rings a bell, you know who lives on Bayview, don't you? That's a cul-de-sac. I've got the same thing actually being built right now, Mahone Creek, over in that area, it goes back, it circles around, comes back out again, into the cul-de-sac. We got them all over town, we really do. And some of them a lot narrower than this. I mean, man, just really 2 lanes of traffic to get down these things. And I'd say if there's a hardship for somebody, I can't see why this couldn't go down there. It's just interesting.
Thank you. Was there more that you wanted to say to us, Bob?
No, I guess that.
I like the walkthrough, by the way, off that.
Yeah, could you show where you had in mind for that, the walkthrough idea?
I think, my personal opinion here, if we're going to change this and go back and talk about a cul-de-sac, we should maybe think about revisiting this portion at another meeting, just so we can address these issues, and we have to make sure that utility connections, everything else is still going to work here. But what I was thinking was up through here.
Right.
Connect to Sitka, then we have the connection to the park, then the connection up to Easy, up into the parkway would make a lot of sense from a pedestrian standpoint. Vehicular traffic that's not what you're really after there. Anyway.
Let me take it one more step. Walkway here, walkway there. Now you got it all covered.
Potentially. I don't know if it would really pay to go out to Ontario, because if you have there's really...
Depends on which way to go. The park is up over in there, though, so, yeah, you're getting them to the park and from this medial area. That's most important.
Cul-de-sac, so, from a pedestrian standpoint, I think that would make the most sense, but I do think we should look at, before we go ahead and approve this and change it that drastically, we need to look at it to make 100% sure from our end, and the engineering side, as well as and the planner that want to look at that. So I guess I would ask the commission if we could approve the north portion, area north of Sitka, and table this, or allow us to revisit it and look at the possibility of a cul-de-sac if the commission generally supports the idea of a cul-de-sac there.
How do you get a fire truck in there? How do you get a rescue squad in there? I don't see that, how that works.
There'd be a lot more review that we have to
Yeah, that's what I
certainly
have
look
to-
into it. I'm not sure if fire truck.
Or do you get a rescue truck with?
Right here, right here.
Well, how would you get in there now?
Yeah, they get there now already, Paul. What do you
Yeah,
saying?
well, right.
And if you have
That's
that
why they're-
cul-de-sac, we have 1 million cul-de-sacs in Green Bay, and they get in every one of them, not a problem.
So one of the things that I think is important is if we've said as a city in our smart growth plan that we want to move toward a grid system to promote community and away from cul-de-sacs, we need to be cognizant of when we're deciding not to make that decision.
Yes.
Because this happens one at a time, a bunch of times, and then we've not followed what our directive was.
That's right.
And I guess to that point, this is kind of the last piece in the puzzle that we're trying.
But like in one specific development, these
Yeah.
developments happen all over the city.
Heather, we have these type of developments with the cutoff. We're building them right now.
That's exactly right, which is why we need to be aware of the decisions that we're making in an isolated event.
Thank you. So we return to regular order of business. I think that it wouldn't hurt to approve the northern portion of this, table this particular piece until we have further information about whether anything different can happen.
I would make that motion, and let's really look hard at this. And I guess what I'm hearing from Heather here is basically every time a single residence comes up that has problems, we shouldn't really have to deal with it on a one-on-one basis.
Well, I'm not saying deal with it.
Yeah.
We
She
should
says be
definitely deal with
cognizant.
it.
Yeah, I think that
be
kind of
aware
opens
that
the
we're-
door for us to give it more thought, and I think
Yeah.
everybody's kind of wants to work together to make this work better, and both Tom and I have areas like this that are actually probably under construction right now that kind of look like this, and we have many of them that are already there. And, that don't make it right. I mean,
Exactly.
our comprehensive plan is a comprehensive plan, so I would make that motion that you just suggested,
And I second that.
Madam Chair.
So we've got a motion and a second. Is there any other
To approve the north side of Sitka for the ADP and
Yes.
table the south side, so we've got information.
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. And then this will go forward to the city council as well on Monday. And then it'll come back here. When do you think it might come back here?
Going to be a fair work on that one.
Probably as soon as possible. The next meeting is,
We can try for the 22nd, if not, it'll be the first meeting in March.
Okay.
And if I could, Stephanie, I think it would be helpful if you went back to the comprehensive plan and remind us of the reasoning behind that decision. Because I do remember that was a general principle, and there was a lot of very well-educated professional thought that went into it. I think we should be reminded of that.
Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Berman. And I do appreciate both of you discussing the comprehensive plan and the grid system and why it's important to be cognizant of that. Thank you. Okay.
Done the information.
We went the informational, and we have director's update. Thank you for coming in.
We did not have a council meeting, so there were no actions on the items. They will all be coming forth on Monday.
So you have nothing to update?
Nothing to update.
And we may have a new plan commission member.
I believe you saw item, item number 7 on here tonight. That has been the bulk of my and staff's time in the last week.
And our potential new member will be voted on at the city council meeting? Is that correct?
Do we have another one in queue?
This one?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I'm sorry. I haven't seen the agenda yet, so that, yes, most likely will be coming through on Monday.
Okay, good.
That's what Andy said.
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Still have the minutes to approve yet?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Sorry,
that's
held off
right,
on that.
thank you.
Lack of quorum.
We have approval of the minutes. Is there any discussion on the minutes?
I move approval.
You're
sucking that.
Motion and a second to approve, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All in favor?
Aye.